everyone. Oh my goodness gracious. It is 9/11 today. We had the incident with Charlie Kirk, and I figured that the best person that I would have come on with me today to just break this open, wide open, is my dear brother, Derek Jonhson. Derek, thank you for coming on the broadcast today. Boy, there's a lot of speculations that are flying here, there, and everywhere. I mean, first off, being 9/11, we look back at 9/11 and the inside job that was, and why that had to occur, and so forth. But before we just unpack this whole Charlie Kirk thing, tell us your perspective in regards to 9/11.
Well, it kind of ties in with the Charlie Kirk incident when it comes to, I tell people all the time, I can't unknow what I know. But then too many people wonder where I came from in another manner. And I'm like, well, all you need to know is I'm consistent with what I've shown, right? And I'll never forget growing up, we lived on it was right at 5,000 acre cattle ranch. And I had started my first year of college, and I started at a little junior college about 15 miles away. And we lived in the middle of nowhere. And so I'll never forget my dad coming in there to my room because I was sleeping late that morning. I don't think I had to be at class until 9 or 10 or something. And so I knew, like, a guy, we don't have to do what females do. So it's like, I could throw on my jeans and t-shirt and hit my car, be at class, walk right in class. And I could, 15-mile drive, I could leave 25 minutes ahead. So I could sleep right to the last second. And I didn't have to do my chores until later. And so, that was the perks of college. I looked at college completely different back then. I got to get out of chores in the morning and do them in the evening. And so I'll never forget my dad coming in there, waking me up, and like looking at him like, what are you waking me up for? And he was like, I'll never forget it. He's saying, we're under attack. We're under attack. Well, Southerners have always been prepared for, like, the South's going to win again. And Hank Williams Jr. has a song called The South's Going to Do It Again. And, the Southerners are always like prepared, and there's always been those jokes about the North and the South. And, well, you cut our ammo supply off. You won't cut it off this time, and like how we stockpile and everything. And so it was one of those feelings where when you're in the moment, you don't know what you know unless you know something, or it depends on who you are, what you are, where you are, etc. So I was 18 years old, and my dad, that's the first words he said. That's, we're under attack. We're under attack. Well, I got up in time enough to see the second plane hit, and then he was just like, well, every back road from here to there. If something escalates, then go on over there, keep your head on a swivel, see what the professors say, and then you know how to get back if anything. Plus, I knew how to get through the woods from there too. But so anyway, long story short, whenever the smoke cleared in another kind of manner, what you could know, I'll never forget my grandfather. My grandfather was a ship welder for 48 years. He never missed but 2 days being sick. That's on record. 48 years. And I'll never forget, he just sat there. He had no expression, but he had no smile. He didn't have a frown. He didn't have nothing like that. He just said, he snapped his finger. He said, that doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. Metal, steel, it doesn't work like that. Those buildings are built. They are to the spec, the top level engineering to even stand up that high, first off, and to stand there that long. It don't work like that. I'll never forget him saying that. Now, I was 18 again. I was still listening to my grandfather, and I wasn't in some rebellious stage or anything, but I never really heard him elaborate too much. He elaborated a little, but not a lot. But then when I'm in basic training. So my grandfather is white as white can get. right? I have to say this on purpose for people to show perspective. My grandpa was white as white could get. I mean, I am white too. A black drill sergeant, and I'm talking ghetto black. He had the gold teeth and everything, the tats, and the, you know, you could tell he had an earring when he wasn't in uniform. He probably put it. I'm talking about ghetto black.
Gotcha.
Now I'm from the South. I can say that, right? So we're sitting at bay. You can't talk to a drill sergeant unless he asks you a point blank question. You can't just sit there and shoot the breeze. So people who don't know military, well, he sat there for 2.5 hours and made this case of how 9/11 was an inside job. And
Wow.
every moment he spoke, all I could hear was my grandfather. Because everything that he said for what my grandfather did said, here's a black drill sergeant from, I don't even remember where he was from, but wasn't from Alabama, wasn't from the Deep South. Everything aligned. How could two people from two different walks of life, two different everything, align with that thought process? And it didn't mean you had to be an expert on anything either, but just two different people from two different walks, from way different. I don't even remember what state. I know he wasn't from the South though. So how can that be? And so what I'm trying to show people is that, you know, what my platform does is I show you the bigger picture first. Once you learn the bigger picture, then even if an intricacy happens that you don't really comprehend, the bigger picture is still enough to chew on to know that, okay, there is something unique and different and separate going on. And until the commanders want you to know what that intricacy is, then you can learn to chill out. Now, you can have your reserves. Sure. You can have your stomach, your gut instinct. I'm not trying to remove any of that from people, like I've shown people from the get-go. But people do have to know what's going on. And certain people do know what's going on. And certain people are put in our place for a reason. And the way you know that is consistency of what's been given. And not I mean, like I tell people, my pages are not a soft place to land. Don't come to my pages for a soft spot. You come to my page and here's what you're going to get. But if you don't go read, study, and seek to comprehend that, you're just doing yourself an injustice. And if you're coming to my page because Fox News has 10,000 comments in every comment box and you can't be seen in it, but coming over to mine just where you can be seen, or come to my inbox and give me some kind of slur or slander, I'm just going to grin at you and go, oh, gosh, you said F you. Oh, my goodness. That's a term of endearment in the military, by the way, so thank you. You know, oh, gosh, I'm shaking. You cussed me. Let me go call my therapist. I don't know what to do. You know, and so many people let their feelings and emotions stand in the way, and they're missing the point of all this, because where America got, what we've enabled the internet to be and social media to be, yesterday people failed the test. They failed again, the same thing that COVID did to them. They didn't hear President Trump back in March 2020 saying hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine. They heard what they wanted to hear, and they let fear dictate what they wanted to hear. Versus, okay, it looks like a tragedy, but take what you can know, put that right here, put your feelings and emotions over here for a moment, take what you can be known, what's given. Most people want what? Instant gratification. So they're still failing the test because they've been programmed in that instant gratification. But it's a clear answer of what's going on. And even my friends and family, I got friends and family who are still like, oh, you know, they either go from be careful, you're a figure out there too, or they'll go from that to straight over to, oh, you know, you're pissing a lot of people off, blah, blah. Sorry, I can't unknow what I know.
Right. Exactly. Well, certain people are given certain information. It's just like the military, you know, a need to know. And so being in that arena for years, you know, and can see what is really going on. You said something in regards to how 9/11 and Charlie Kirk go together. Would you unpack that?
Well, it goes back to, like I was just saying, so what they showed to the people is all you can know at the moment. then you'd say what's given, right? When you look at the atmosphere and you look at what people are saying and doing, they're already putting up, prayer hands and this and that and other. That's an emotion and that's a feeling. I'm not saying you're wrong, but when someone like me can show you that, hey, we're still in 45-47, we're still in the operation by law. Laws show this. So when the attitude goes from, when I say that, people say, you're just dragging this out. There's always something you can say to drag it out. Oh, Derek Jonhson, the law shows what's going on. The visuals show and paint another picture for the people who understand the military side of it, but the special operations side of it. And what the good Lord put me here for and put me in place for, and what my platforms do, is show exactly what you can know. It's all public. I was showing a friend earlier today, I was saying, this is a special operations command publication with their email. They're saying you, the reader, can email your questions, all right, or challenge something here. Like, I don't back down from challenges, but there's nothing to debate, right? It's not a debate. So see, the terminology is what's got to be reset in America as well. People don't listen to respond. People hear to react. They just want a reaction, opinion. Oh, well, I don't believe what you believe, but you may not know. All right. So what I'm trying to show people is that quick reaction, that instant gratification is what they're trying to flip. See, so this was a turning point, all pun intended. All right. This was a turning point of this operation. All right. Because someone of a stature like that, talking about what all he does is talk about personal stances, gay marriage and gay this and, immigration this. And that's not that's a generic comment and conversation that every one of us can have at a campfire, at a bar, at a church, at whatever it is, any setting. That's a conversation. All right. We've got so many people who just get up in arms and so combative, just like those in my inbox. F you, Derek Jonhson. F you. Okay, so, all right, let's just say that I'm not anything. Let's just say I'm not anybody, nothing military, nothing. Let's just say I'm nothing. What's it hurt to see a different perspective?
Right.
It doesn't. And see, so those are the people who failed the test. And so where they correlate is 9/11 is something that's so big that the world saw. Charlie Kirk is so big, something that the world saw. So everybody's going to have an opinion. Everybody's going to have a thought. Everybody's going to have something to say about it. Well, you shouldn't be squandered or chastised or whatever it is for your thought process. That's not what I'm doing. But what I tell people is I have a platform that God gave me and certain other people gave me. It's been validated. All right. Well, when I put stuff out, it's supposed to be for the masses. I'm careful with what I put out, but I also can't unknow what I know and undo what I've been tasked to do. So when I put that out there, it's already gone through a thought process. It's already gone through a process of, fine tooth comb, covering it over, making sure certain things are here, and here, and it's in an order, etc. But it's all empowerment. It doesn't hurt anybody. But what it's perceived by some of these people is it's perceived that way to them, right? Sure. They perceive it that way. So they're the ones in the comment boxes looking negative. Now, a lot of my followers attack them, and I try to tell people, don't attack people, just respond accordingly. Don't attack either. But, my page is, like I said, it's not a soft landing. This is where it's going on. So what I try to show people is, like, I always keep it handy right here, but the 45-47, the ball cap. President Trump did this. I didn't do this. This was not my suggestion. President Trump did that. All right. That punctuation is exactly what it is. If President Trump was not what that means, then it should say a comma or a little and symbol. But it doesn't. It's a dash, meaning it is 45 through 47, 45 to 47, 45, 46, and 47. That's exactly what he did that. And the timing of when he did it was in the middle of 2021 and 2025. All right. And then my grandfather served during 43 to 45 of the Army during one of the most popular puppet governments in the whole tactic of the World War II era, All right, the Second Philippine Republic, where they used two different presidents. One had control of civil affairs and one had control of the military. All right, what everybody witnessed from 2021 to 2025 with quote unquote Joe was the same kind of setup, slightly different variables and slightly different outcome that's going to take place. But it's exactly that, by law. So see, so many people show they don't know the law. They don't read the law. They don't study the law. But then when I show it to you and I give everybody the nuggets and I try to do it in the best chronological order as possible, people don't go study. And what people do is they get all the way here to September the 11th, 2025. What I've been showing this since August 24, 2022, visually to the public, all right, when they put me on the map, all right, well, you got to pick up right here and keep it daily and read it daily. And then once you have your foundation and once you have your structure, your walls, if you want to look at it architecturally, once you have that, then you can see intricate things if it's disclosed either fully or partially. And even if it isn't disclosed yet, then you know disclosure is going to come somewhere down the road because we're still by law in an operation. So what most people tend to do is, well, I don't see the laws being enforced. Well, it's because you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what you don't see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is, like I've said from day one, politics was never supposed to have, it was supposed to never be called politics, first off. All right. Now, we don't need a big government, but we do need a government because we can't have people taking the law into their own hands or we will have bloodbaths daily because people,
right,
the people who say F you to me will be the people like Barney Fife pulling out their pistol, like a guy told me a while ago to go off myself, meaning go kill myself. So those people will be the kind who would go, I'll just kill Derek Jonhson. That's that mindset. So all these people out there, because I show a different perspective. Now I know what's going on, but even if you didn't know that, then a different perspective, I should go kill myself just because I have a different perspective that's a little bit outside of the normalcy. So see, those are the people that's been enabled in this nation. And it's not supposed to look like that. America has become materialistic. Yes. Everything's about what you live in, what you drive, what you wear, what you look like, what kind of degree you have, how up the ladder you've been. I mean, we have materialized so much stuff off of man-made stuff that doesn't matter. I've never seen a casket with side pockets on it. I've never seen anybody buried in their Mercedes. I've never seen anybody buried in their Cadillac. I've never seen anybody buried in their house. I've never seen anybody.
Right.
All right. So America has materialized too much. And so then what happened? Education slacked off. The reason why I know what I know is because my grandfathers and my grandparents they were high on education. All right. My parents were high on education, but it wasn't just education. It was education of our foundation. It was education of our history. It was education that they passed down. Yeah. See, every one of our grandparents, your grandparents, my grandparents, they didn't have technology. They had to write things down. They had the ledgers. They had a log. They had a diary. They had books. They had every bit of our foundation was passed down via paper because someone wrote it down. Right. Yes. Now we don't. I've said this before. I said the better technology get, the dumber people get. They have it right at their fingertips and won't go research it because everything that was passed down from all the way from our foundation has been duplicated now and it's online. And we have people who won't even study our own foundation, our own history. That's why liberals look absolutely crazy when they say stuff about the Constitution. I'm like, the Constitution is a framework to keep Congress in check. It's like an instruction manual. All right, the Congress is to do this. The Congress can select what day we vote, and the Congress can do this. And it's not what you want to quote when it comes to things like what's going on in the atmosphere. The Declaration of Independence is what you want to quote, and that's when it says, "But when a long train of abuses and usurpations become destructive of these ends." Right? Yeah. It is the right to the people. It is their right. It is their duty to overthrow such government and set it upon new foundation. All right, that's what everybody's witnessing right now. Yes. And so they got to use special operations to flip the narrative out there because this thing with Charlie Kirk is going to flip that narrative with all these college kids out there who have been brainwashed in college. They've been brainwashed by man-made material by a system that the deep state put into place. I've been to college. I know. I have a master's degree from Colorado State and a bachelor's from University of Alabama. I know about professors. I've always told students, you want to know the trick to getting a degree? Learn the professor. Learn the professor's ideology. Learn what they think. Even if it ain't what you think, write on the test. If it's an essay, write on there some bull crap about liberalism, because you got to pass their system. It's their system. That's how you get their degree. That's all it is. So you flip the narrative. You put a figure up there like this in place, and then bam, you make something happen like that. And then, where did Epstein go? I don't see any liberals talking about Epstein today. X ain't got a thing to do with Epstein today. Nobody's talking about Epstein anymore. Nobody's talking about that. Now what the liberals are doing are saying, well, so-and-so, this woman got killed way back here on such date, and they didn't make the flag half-mast for her, and this person died, and George Floyd died. They're back to that narrative now. Where's Epstein at? Where's Epstein? The subpoenas are still going on right now, September. Bill and Hillary subpoenas are in October. Where did that go? So see,
look over here. Look over here. Yeah.
And then when you break down, when you get down to the people who are still hanging on to their emotions and their feelings, then you get down to the other. All right, this is where you can't unknow if you're military, especially if you're Army and Marine Corps, because that's heavily involved with your weaponry. Right, the Army and the Marine Corps are more of that, and that's not knocking Air Force, that's not knocking the Navy, that's not knocking even the Coast Guard, not knocking that, and even Space Force now, not knocking it. But the Army, Marine Corps, we're the ones with the heavy artillery and machinery. All right, when they showed that panoramic view of yesterday, it was uphill. It looks like an amphitheater, so the audience goes uphill. All right. This guy is a guy that they've shown speak at multiple college campuses for years now. All right. And of all times that he dies, the 360 panoramic view have buildings behind the audience. All right. And some are parking decks. All right. Which has layers of openings. All right. And it says, this is where I teach people to go with what you know. It says it was a 200-yard shot. All right, so they know it was 200 yards, but they don't know where the shooter was.
Right. Come on.
Come on, people. They don't even have a suspect until today. They finally said they took 2 into custody and they released them. Oh, we made a mistake. What? Correct. How do we know it was 200 yards?
Right.
They know it's already printed. It's all that's all on your mainstream, all everywhere. 200 yards. There was a book published September the 9th on Amazon. Amazon's already pulled it, but I've got the screenshots. All right. Amazon published about the death of Charlie Kirk on September the 9th. I have 3 #1 best-selling books, ladies and gentlemen. I know the process of Amazon. All right. It takes 72 hours to review. That's it. It takes 72 hours to review a book. And let me tell you what, I published a book, one of my books, it was 2 or 3 centimeters off of the graphic being printed. When you resubmit the graphic again, it takes another 72 hours on top of the resubmitting. All right. So a book that was published, it says published date. Now here's what can happen, but this also shows you it was planned as well. Yeah. This also shows it. You can submit a book like that where I did that. I submitted it, let's say on December the 3rd. And then they said, oh, well, it was a discrepancy and I had to resubmit. They still show you the original publication date, even if they didn't publish it till a week later. But it's only September the 11th. So for Amazon to have a book up with the original publication date of September the 9th, it still was within that 72 hours of their normal process. So, see, that's where people don't want to listen to people who've been there, done that, know the process. And every time I submit a book, it's 72 hours review, 72 hours review. And it's always on that 72-hour day that it publishes. All right. Because it has to go through all its specs. Right. They got to get their printers ready. They got whoever's on that side receiving that in, they're getting that ready. All right. So there's that. You got a guy there looking like a third baseman behind him. And he's sitting there pulling on his ear and pulling on his nose, and looking in that direction, ear, nose, ear. And at the same time, Charlie puts the microphone down. He's doing the same thing with his nose, simultaneous with this guy. All right. Well, they tell you 200-yard shot. Well, when you do look at the panoramic view, the deck to the right of what would be him, the deck to the right has people on the rooftop. So there's people on the roof looking over. So there's no 200-yard shot that someone wouldn't be able to see. Hey, there's someone over there. Also, security. Everywhere I go, and security teams, they go to the furthest point of which someone could perch. All right, and that's where they put all their rovers, what they call a rover, and they have multiple rovers walking around, and they're armed, heavily armed, and they're the bad boys, the rovers. All right, they're out there doing that. They all have their communications, etc. So you have that. This panoramic view showed the audience going up, and you can see one parking deck opening and a rooftop. This rooftop to the right has people on top of it. Over here is another building. All right. There's no 200-yard shot there. The other thing is, if it was a 200-yard shot beyond that building, the shooter would still have to be elevated because he was down in a hole. He was down in an amphitheater type setting, and he was halfway under a tent. All right. The tent didn't move. The bullet didn't go through the flap on the front where it says "Prove we're wrong." That didn't. And then when you see his shirt go back. So the force wouldn't have done the bullet wouldn't do that. Not your shirt. It wouldn't have done that. All right. Then there was a delay on the little hole there, and then the blood starts pouring out. Ladies and gentlemen, nurses can tell you this: your jugular, anywhere right here, your blood's going to work with your heartbeat. All right, it's going to pump with your heartbeat like that. Or if your heart's pumping it could do. But it won't look like a solid pour. It's not going to be a solid pour. Then the blood they showed, I've shown people you screen record it, and then you slow it down. You use your finger to move it. The blood never lands. It never goes anywhere. And then it splatters in midair. Like if you're sitting here and it's pouring right here, then it splatters out here. It's not hitting anything to splatter, and blood don't do that. And then the blood never stains the shirt. The blood never stops on the shirt. It don't do that.
I think it would drip down and everything,
That too. It would be all over. It would be all over the collar. And it looks like it's hard to describe what it looks like in the proper terms for people, layman's terms for people, but it never stains and it never lands anywhere. And then that's what I slowed down the video. People have to see it on my Telegram because they don't censor you over there. They censor you on X. I did put it on X, but they censored it. So I can't put it on Facebook. They'll censor it and possibly unpublish your page for something like that kind of content. So my Telegram is the only one where I can show people slow down. When you slow it down, there's 3 little spurts that go that way.
Yeah.
It don't hit anything. It never hits anything. Now, all this stuff, if you still can't comprehend why, then you need to stop there. This is what I'm trying to teach people. You need to stop with the Charlie Kirk thing. Put it down. Go study what I've shown people through special operations on the bigger picture, what President Donald John Trump has done, what the military's done lawfully, that outlines 45-47 unique, strategic, special laws and orders that are invoked, and they're draining the swamp, and how they have to flip narratives out there. They have to flip mindsets. We cannot sustain with America the way it's looked, with all these people butting heads on just simple matters. Government was never supposed to look like this. It wasn't supposed to be your president versus my president. It was never supposed to be that. So they got to break all these cultures, what has become a culture, what has become a norm. They have to break that ideology out there of what liberals think is their ideology, which is completely off base. And you have to do certain things that gets people's attention. All right. And then also says, whoa, because a lot of liberals did. Oh, we don't need violence like this. Oh, no. So it's doing what it's supposed to be doing where it's supposed to be doing. But when you turn around and say, I'm crazy, and you turn around and say, all you're doing is injustice to every special operator, every secret military, every person in special operations at every capacity, all you're doing is squandering their service and what they're doing. And I know multiple ones. 4 or 5 were texting me yesterday, special operations. We were all conversating. All right. Now, when you're on certain levels, even here, you don't know what the commanders are going to do. but you can understand and comprehend it when they show that card what they did. Then it's like, okay, well, look at this, look at this, look at this. There's your visuals. Now go read this, go read this, go read this. Because look what people did July 13th last year. It's a foregone conclusion with even Republicans and conservatives. They don't forget about President Trump. Then when President Trump bombed Iran, what did you have people saying? Oh, you're breaking up MAGA. You're going against your campaign. Just completely forget about your guy being quote unquote assassinated attempt. Forget about that. See, people show that they live on emotions and drama and propaganda, and they're not thinking. They're not putting their thinking caps back on. All right. Well, people can say, well, I didn't know to think like that. Well, exactly. That's why you're listening to me right now. All right. Because God led you to me for a reason. So when you go back, I broke that whole thing down. And the day of, me and Jaco and the colonels from special operations and everything, we all got on the podcast within a day. I called that together. I said, we need to do it. We did it. Every one of us broke down why that would be a strategic special operation to show that. And I can show people right here. I got it right here. I've shown people over and over and over again the special operations pyramid, all right, of what it looks like and why it would look like this during the resistance movement and how you flip the narratives out there. That is exactly what that resistance pyramid shows. It's not a bad pyramid, and it shows people that assassination is a creation. And you won't be able to see it, but I'm just going to show a brief. It looks like that. Mm-hmm. All right, and it shows a color grid down here. All right, so when you look at the color grid, it'll tell you. It says political negotiations from steady state foundation run through everything start to finish. Well, that's a certain color. But the one that says assassination, I'll break it down since we have limited time. But assassination is in purple. Purple highlights the very few times the model mentions deliberate creation. Now, this is a special operation pyramid. This is what special operators work with, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Now, no, you wouldn't know about it unless you knew about it. But you can know about it because it's public. It's not top secret anything. This is the one, the article. Matter of fact, I'll post it later on my pages. But the article has an email there. The guy, his name, he's a 28-year veteran of the Special Forces. All right. That's like I tell people all the time. Too many people are watching the wrong people. There are people out there making people think they got intel, and there's some insider. If you're an insider, your face is not known. All right. Publicly telling people that. If your face is known and you are secret military, then you won't be saying it like that. You can be secret military with your face and your name out there, but you won't be saying, hey, I'm intel and I got this. It won't sound like that. You just are. You just show people what you know. So this right here is showing people assassination. Now watch what it says. Now, I did this with President Trump, and then most people understood it. Forming favorable public opinion. Advocating national cause. Creation of distrust of established institutions. Guess who's taking a beating right now?
Oh, the Democrats.
Kash Patel.
Oh,
Kash Patel.
Okay. Wow.
Kash Patel and the FBI are taking a beating right now. Also, did it create a national cause? Checkmate.
Yep.
Did it advocate a national cause? Checkmate. Did it form favorable public opinion? Checkmate. So see, it did more good than it did harm. What people do is let death and murder, that's the stuff that pulls on your emotions. That's the stuff that gets people distracted. That's the stuff, the heartstring.
You're right.
All right. I get the heartstring when it's someone who has absolutely no idea what's been going on or anything. But to those people, those are the ones who don't need to be saying F you and go kill yourself and all that, because they don't realize I have #1 best-selling books about this, about special operations, about how you get outside of the box. How do you think outside the box? It's okay to think a lot of different ways as long as you have a foundation. as long as you have a solid foundation, you can let your mind go a certain place because you can always come back to that foundation.
Right.
All right. My grandfather was that way. He was a Christian, but he let the Jehovah's Witnesses come in and talk to him. He let the Mennonites, and he talked to everybody he could because he said, I may be wrong about something. I may be reading my way the wrong way. So but his foundation was solid. Right. So if he didn't agree with something, then he still had his foundation. But he would process it the right way. He didn't tell them they were wrong, though. He didn't tell them, hey, get out of my house, you're wrong, and you're going to hell, and blah, 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 blah. He didn't do that. Right. He found a way to go, well, that's an interesting perspective. I don't know if I agree with that, but that's interesting, and I'm going to process that, and I'm going to read a little bit more. Yeah. That's what Americans are supposed to be doing right now. Even if you don't want to believe that I know what I know, you don't want to believe in who I am and what I am and what God put me here for, the FUs, and those are the people failing the test. It don't personally bother me. Those are the people failing the test. Those are the people that are the target audience, and they don't realize the target audience. All right. And so we've got to flip this narrative back in America to where we get back to solid foundation, the household, the family, the dinner table, the conversations, those things. It's got to start there. We don't need a Department of Education on a higher level telling your children what they need to do, and the colleges telling and brainwashing your kids. That's the stuff they're trying to flip. And so you use someone that big like that with that kind of draw and that kind of pull. And yes, the heartstring was supposed to reach the ones with the heartstrings that don't know the laws and orders of what's going on in the bigger picture. So if you're still falling for that, you're not studying what you can know and what you should know that President Donald John Trump is working with and what he's the face of. All right. But special operations, it's all special operations. And I can't unknow what I know. And that's like I tell people. So you can hate me all day long. I'm going to get in my truck this evening. I'm going to hit a dirt road and I'm going to drink a coffee. And I'm going to, I'm going to live my life because I know what I know and what I've been tasked to do. So, again, I tell people, you can know it too. But you got to have initiative. You have to read, study, and apply.
Well, that's true. And I just saw something come across in regards to Q, how his Charlie's wife posted Psalms 46:1. And to me, I mean, she posted that prior to everything. And that verse is, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Right. And so the Q drop 461 was what makes a good movie, great actors, Q, and then Charlie Kirk equals 105 equals movie good. So, I mean, all these things, you also put like a spade. And if you look at a spade, a black spade, that's something that's you use to dig up things. So when you put that spade out there, on X or Twitter, whatever it is, what were you trying to pinpoint there?
Tip of the spear, special operations.
Okay.
So many people, things have been, this whole movie's been time-stamped in another kind of way as well. So you use visuals for people. And President Trump, there was three things that were consistent with quote unquote Joe Biden. So for people who are new, I put quotes around him because he wasn't real. He was an actor. It was a puppet government. And President Trump's used the terms occupied country, which is occupied territory, white flag of surrender, puppet government. All these they're not government terms, ladies and gentlemen. Those are all found in the Law of War Manual. And that's why I show people, when you know the bigger picture, you'll know it's a special operation, the whole thing. 45-47 is the operation, the whole thing. And so you're still in it. Law shows that. Right now, as we speak, Executive Order 13961 is partially revoked, which means it's partially active. It's a continuity government. And then President Trump followed up with an executive order in March to do with the continuity government. Just this past March, we're still in it. And as long as we're still in a continuity government, we're still in a military occupation because they accompany each other. Those were established by Dwight D. Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, but also former five-star general, rare five-star general. And so those were established years ago. And so what people need to comprehend and take from that is That is that shell that I talk about. Learn the shell first, because that shell is your foundation. And when you learn all that, and then it ain't gonna be easy for some of you, because when we're on the ladder, we're not on the front. We're near that, but just because we're near the end too, don't mean you still don't study. Because that's what exonerates President Trump. That's what makes him different. That's what makes him unique. That's when he said, "I will be exonerated. I won't be acquitted." Exonerated means no blemish on your record whatsoever. So all of what the liberals are spewing and all this pedophile and all this other stuff, no blemish. It was a pre-planned, strategic operation. Now, I can show by multiple laws what's been invoked with the military. The military is what should be, outside of children, the military is what should be the unifying factor as well, because military law is separate than the federal government. There's 4 ways that military pairs with the federal government. Only 4. Executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and treaties. They all require president. All right, there's only one way. Each national emergency unlocks 120 statutory powers. Now, they're the same powers, but each national emergency means if this emergency is terminated or resolved, if 7 more are still open, then all those powers are still there. Every one of those emergency powers proves that President Trump never went away. And it was as prescribed as Dwight D. Eisenhower and that establishment prescribed it as. Not what the deep state did. The deep state did pass these national emergencies from president to president, and they kept those open. The Iran one's been open since 1979. It's older than me. All right. So it's been open all that time. It wasn't supposed to look like that. So President Trump's had to end all those. That's why he says, "I've ended 7 wars." Well, most of those were in executive orders that have been running for many, many, many years. Congo was one of them. Syria was another one. He's ended those. So he had to end all that. So you got to think of the bigger picture. No one's doing that. Things like Charlie Kirk gets to an intricacy, and it pulls people down to a little finite little slough, if you will, or bayou, where it's like a little bitty thing. You still got to look at the bigger picture. All right, President Trump, the 45-47. And so the laws show, the military laws show. And I prove it real fast. Like, so you got the 4 power. There's only it's a bunch more powers, but there's 4 big ones. The military deployment is one of them. Then you have you can restrict telecommunications. That's one emergency power by a president. Well, the AP, President Trump's posted twice now, 2 different rulings. The appeals court has ruled that the Associated Press are banned, still banned. Yes. So it means that order was put into place. They're still banned from Mar-a-Lago, the White House, and anything presidential. The Associated Press can't be around Donald John Trump. Right? He's already terminated PBS, NPR, CNN. Now they're destroying MSNBC. There's been multiple firings from there for what they posted about Charlie Kirk. So they're destroying MSNBC. All right. So all this was strategic. All right. Restricting telecommunications is an emergency power. And you have President Trump showing you specifically that the Associated Press has been banned, and it's upheld by the appeals court. That is 47 United States Code, section 606, ladies and gentlemen. The title of that 47 U.S. Code is War Powers of the President. War powers. All right. Then that's why you got to know the War Powers Act. Title 50, Chapter 33. That section 1550 was not in there until Congress put it there December the 20th, 2019. Who was the president in 2019? Donald John Trump. So that one order there clears President Trump of everything, because Title 50 is Congress. That's not the president. That's the Congress. So that was congressional approval. And here's how you know it's bipartisan. It was a Democratic House of Representatives who introduced the bill. It was a Republican Senate who passed it. All right. So all the military movement, all your military movement, Texas in 2024. So February 2024, Texas. That proclamation 9844 was declared February the 5th, 2019. That Title 10 was invoked in 2019. There's no Title 10 order anywhere else for those troops in Texas. Then you have March the 27th, 2020, Executive Order 13912, 1 million reserve components. So this one was a National Guard. This one's reserves. All right. So every troop movement. Also, there's only one Title 32 order out there. You saw all your liberals all last week. Oh, President Trump violated the law. He can't send troops in without the governor's consent. Ladies and gentlemen, if governors had to end all, do all, say all, we would have some power tripping governors by now. Yeah, what they're talking about is Title 32, Section 502. And it has nothing to do with that. When you go read Title 32, Section 502, you don't say that. Then you got to go pair that with the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15, and Clause 16. It specifically says what Congress deems, not the governors, what Congress deems. Congress deemed that. Joint Publication 3-57, the military can work with civil operations. Joint Publication 3-57, page 46, tells you specifically, no, you don't want active duty in direct military out with the civilians in law enforcement. No, generally, unless what? Congress or the Constitution deems so. Oh, there's your Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. There's your bipartisan order in the War Powers Act. Then the War Powers Act shows you it's a special operation. In that same section, it's a codification, and it says specifically, this is not an amendment to the War Powers Act, meaning it's not permanent for future presidents to use. It's not going to stay in here. This is not going to stay in here. This is for a specific military operation. President Trump's executive orders show you that. The executive order where he invoked 12304, which is your reserve components to do with civil affairs. That's the funding for civil affairs. That was April 30th, 2020. In that order, it specifically says for a specific operation in the Western Hemisphere. Specific operation.
Wow.
But so there's two different Title 10s invoked, 12302 and 12304. The 12304 is even more important because you have to have a 2-year advancement for funding. So it means this has to be known 2 years in advance that you're going to use this and be prepared for it. So that was invoked way back in 2020. That's your Title 10 for your civil affairs, for your military operating with Boston, Chicago, etc. Right? So people don't, and unfortunately, a lot of veterans don't even know this. They just know all orders. They don't know Title 10 has multiple orders under it, and Title 32. And this is why you got to read and study, and that's why it takes a special person. But to say it don't exist, and it's hogwash, and it's BS, and FU, and all that, you're just hurting yourself. This is what President Trump's working with. This is what makes him unique, different, separate, but also a supreme commander like Dwight D. Eisenhower was. That's why all these capitulations happened. He was the first president to walk in North Korea. Where's Kim Jong-un? Where's he at? Have you heard anything about him? Remember that temperament President Trump was supposed to have that was going to set the world into a nuclear war that Hillary and Obama and all said? Where's Kim Jong-un? No one's seen him. No one's heard from him anymore, right? President Trump was the first president to walk into North Korea. First president. Ronald Reagan didn't. Forbidden City of China. President Trump was the first foreign leader in 500 plus years to walk into the Forbidden City of China. President Trump was the first person ever allowed to hand the trophy over to a sumo champion. The Emperor of Japan is supposed to do that. President Trump did that. He walked in front of the Queen. That's showing you the royalty is going to dissipate. That's showing you the monarchy is going to be gone. All right. Then Modi, India, in the state of Texas, President Trump. All right. All these things. He pushed the people out of the way at NATO. He physically pushed the guy out of the way. He left the Argentinian president on the stage by himself, wandering around, supposed to take a picture with him, walk right on by him. Right. All these things that the liberals thought was unetiquette and uncouth and all these other, all strategic. Also, the events that happened January the 20th, 2021, Biden didn't receive a ride on Air Force One, all right, in the D.C. The National Guard turned their backs on the motorcade. All this was theater anyway. It was all TV theatrics, but still, that's what they displayed to the public. All right, no officer present for the cannon salute. That's Army Regulation 600-25. That's a violation of 2-3 cannon salutes. No officer present for quote unquote Biden. But the first time in history, they showed two different set of cannons. They had the 4 cannons with President Trump. That is a 21 gun salute by definition, 4 cannons. All right. They showed 3 for quote unquote Joe at Arlington. They've never shown the cannons at Arlington ever before in the history. So what they did, people thought, oh, well, he's pushing the wreath back, and the wreath and the unknown soldier and the cannons. No, that's not what you're supposed to think. Every other president had 4 cannons at the national capital region, not at Arlington. Every other even Obama had the 4 cannons at the national capital region, not at Arlington. So see, this is where people don't, they stay in their what they want to feel and what they want to know, and they stay in their little comfort zone, and they think something's far-fetched. And Arlington National Cemetery.mil, can't read any more clear. The 3 volley salute seen or heard at Arlington is not to be confused with the 21 gun salute. The 3 volley salute is a funeral. It can't get any more clear, and you'll have people to this day still justify that. Like Charlie Kirk, he's got a ring on his ring finger. Slow the video down. It's on his pinky finger. They're teaching people also AI. What are the odds that Melania was just talking about the importance of AI and educating people on AI just a couple of days ago?
Right.
What are the odds of that? That people are going to fall for this, and you might as well learn it, ladies and gentlemen. Start studying AI and enable yourself and empower yourself to learn it versus, I don't need to know that. I don't need to. They're testing people, and people failed the test yesterday. Right. Yeah. The ring goes from here, ring finger, to pinky. You got people out there going, oh, there's a flip ring. There's no such thing as a ring that flips from this finger to this. A flip ring is where you take the ring off and you can flip the colors and put it back on your same ring finger. There's no ring that flips from ring to that. That's how people
I can't believe
will try to justify something that challenges their thinking, right? Challenges their beliefs, challenges that, and that's what we're trying to get people to understand, is that you're justifying what is clearly, I didn't mess with that video. I'm taking it, I pulled it straight off a mainstream website that everybody can go to right now, and I screen record it, and then I slow it down for you, and you can see the ring clearly go from ring finger to pinky finger, all in one setting.
Wow.
And so those are the things, like this all intertwines because they're flipping the people who still need to react to it. Capture, target audience. All right. They will have an outcome for them. But if you want to know the real, you want to know, and you want to know how someone like me got my spot, then I help you empower yourself and enable yourself with the things that will only empower you the right way. It ain't going to hurt you. Nothing I do hurts you. But once you challenge one lie, what happens? You got to challenge them all. That's what a lot of people don't want to do, is they're afraid to do that. But the laws show exactly what's going on. And the end goal will be a president who, and here's what they show. That's what I was going to do. There were 3 things that were consistent with quote unquote Joe to show it was an operation. 3 things. Every time they showed a soldier around quote unquote Joe, there was a certain insignia around it. On January the 20th, 2017, when President Trump raised his right hand, and I don't know if the screen's inverted or not, so if it's this way, whatever. When he raised his right hand, military officers walked down behind him.
Yes.
They had headbands on right here.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them. Judge Advocate General and military intelligence. Mm-hmm. All right. You just saw headsets just a week ago. Put 600 judges in place for immigration. 600 judges. All right. President Trump's been posting all roads lead to Obama on the same post. All roads lead to Obama. Reshare if you want public military tribunals. Same post. President Trump's been posting that over and over. He posted a week or so back. Lawyer up, Democrats. Justice is coming. All right. So all you patriots out there, Republicans, conservatives, nothing can change till we see arrest. Stop being lazy, 1. 2, empower yourself with what you're supposed to know in between everything. All right. That way we don't end up with this bull crap again later down the road, because you have to strengthen yourself right now to know what is the crap before it hits the fan. All right. We're dealing with the crap on the fan. That's what President Trump's had to deal with, and the military's had to deal with, was all the crap on the fan. And then what it ends up doing. You got people, I don't want to touch that crap. And then you got someone over there on the other side. I don't want to touch it either. And you got someone like me going, get out of the way. Like, put your gloves on. Let me I know what to do. Get out of the way. All right.
Right.
That's that old saying, lead, follow, or get the you know what out of the way. All right. So there were three things that were consistent, starting from your first visual of President Donald John Trump telling you the moment those troops walked down behind him, he's saying, we're taking the power out of D.C. and giving it back to you, the people.
Yep.
All right. That's all strategic, ladies and gentlemen. And the law shows so. And all of what I show is a chronological order of all of what President Donald John Trump and the military has been doing lawfully. So there was three things with quote unquote Joe. Every time they showed a soldier, military intelligence, judge advocate general. And then also one other just for fun measures. Man, it sounds like two different, but it's one command. Civil affairs and psychological operations. They showed that headband around quote unquote Joe. Wow. They showed military intel, judge advocate general, and civil affairs and psychological operations headband. Wow. All right. So civil affairs, I've already shown all the publications and where it shows the military can and all that. So again, it's DOD Directive 3020 25.18. It's joint publication 3-57, more specifically page 46. Then you have a civil affairs publication out there, 2016, 2017, that heavily talks about this. There's multiple things you can look up, and then your Special Operations Command and all of what you can do with Special Ops. So see, if people would seek to know that, and that's like I tell people, it sounds braggadocious. I know the way it is perceived sometimes when I'm talking, but that's like I tell people, in reality, you wouldn't need all these other podcasters who, I'm not talking about people like you, and I'm not talking about people who ask good questions, but also have good insight as well and advice and wisdom. I'm not talking about that. See, people don't get that. I'm talking about people who make people think there's some insider, make people think there's somebody, or they try to give this persona that, oh, I can't tell you what I am.
Yeah.
If you got a face and you got a name, yes, you can. I mean, this is my birth name that everybody sees. This is my face, and I'll occasionally slap myself on a podcast and pull and show that I'm not, wearing a, now you have to know I'm actually pulling hard here. I'm not like just lightly touching but I show people like, I'm real. Like it's so, if someone's out there making you think, oh, don't show my face on the screen. I'm like, get out of here. Like right. It's, all this stuff. It's just so crazy. I'm like, and they brainwash people.
Oh
so
my God.
They asked President Trump not long ago what made him like, what was his like ultimate in life? Like, what was his like love? And he said, I love making deals. He said, it sounds crazy, but he said, just like someone loves hitting a home run or touchdown or whatever, I love making deals. Well, me, I love when people say F you to me. I love when people are mad at me because I'm like, you're still captured. But when people go read, the people who have read, the people who have studied, the people who have comprehended what I've shown, they can't unknow once they know. They can't unsee once they see, and they can't unread once they read. So all those still bleed back to you can't unknow what you know once you know it. And then it makes sense. And so I love being the little guy that people say, oh, he can't know what he knows. He didn't serve long enough and he didn't do this. I love that because what it ends up doing is for everybody who goes and reads, studies, applies, comprehends, they're going to be like, well, how can he know this if he didn't have this? Right. And so it's all about, it's not about finding a tribe. I do love that quote for other things, but right now we're in an operation. We're in a military operation, and that's life and death. And everybody's supposed to be fighting for America. Anyone who's fighting against somebody, anybody who's slandering somebody on the front, especially, like, I defend myself. I tell people I will defend myself, and I'll call people out because I'm defending myself. But I don't attack on the front. These people are attacking on the front for me to go, okay, this is a battle I need to show here. All right. But if anybody's attacking on the front and they're just always just negative or, whatever it may be, if they're not fighting for America, and at least, even if they're 100% wrong, I have a buddy, he says this all the time. He said, man, I'm either 99% wrong, Well, no, he says it like this. He said, I'm either 99% correct with a 1% wrong. That's it.
Mhm.
And he said, and if that's the case, that 1 percentile is small enough for me to do what? Learn from it, whatever it was that he was wrong about. Or he said, I'm 100% wrong and I'm okay with it because I'm fighting for the right reasons. And so a lot of people don't think like that. That's the people who end up cussing you and they end up doing all these things. It's because they're not allowing themselves to go, well, maybe I don't know what I know. I know a preacher right now, one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life, wisdom, older, missionary of multiple countries. And he would do that. He never lost his cool with anybody. He just stayed like that. And he'd ask people. He said, they'd say, well, I don't believe that. He'd go, okay. All right. And they go, well, you just said over here that you believe this. Well, I do. And that's correct. And they go, but that's wrong. He goes, you're right. You're correct. And they go, preacher, do you not hear what he said? To you it is. To me it's not.
Right.
Pretty simple. Right.
Exactly.
But the flip side to it, he goes, well, let me ask you something, though. Let me just counter one more question. He goes, do you just think maybe there's something about God that you don't know? Because he said, I don't know him personally. I've never physically met him. But I have a faith of the things I see that there is a God. Yeah. So to you, I ask you, is there something maybe about God that you don't know about that maybe you should get in your own little being and think about? And that's what he was saying. I'm just challenging your thinking a little bit, right? I'm not trying to change the way you think. I'm not trying to coerce you, persuade you. I'm not taking you by the neck and going, you're going to drink this water. I'll lead you to it. You're going to drink it, right? It's not that. But I tell people, you're on my page. You're in my inbox.
Right.
If you got a different whatever, then move on.
Yeah.
Right.
Have your own page.
Those are the people who failed the test yesterday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, I can be sympathetic to a level of, okay, you're sad. Okay. But I can't unknow what I know. So I tell people, if you're sad, you need to go somewhere else. Because I'm not that soft place to land. And that's not what I was put here for. There's plenty right now of soft places to land all over the internet.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Good luck. Good luck getting your voice heard with those people. But coming over here I'm not going to validate you just because you want your voice heard.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to give you the tools that you need to go think a little bit differently and go think about this. Why didn't the blood land? How did it splatter sideways when it didn't even hit anything to splatter sideways?
Why? I mean, at a shot like that, honestly, why wouldn't go through, right?
Yeah, and then 200 yards is I deer hunt, and I don't care what people think. I'm a proud member of PETA, by the way. I don't know if people knew that, but huge supporter of PETA. A lot of my donations go to PETA. That's people eating tasty animals, by the way. Right. So that's my joke for the day. Because it's even Republicans, conservatives. I get hate mail for that. Oh, you deer hunt. How dare you kill an innocent animal? I'm like, well, God, that innocent animal tastes pretty good. But
grass finished. Let's do it.
Grass-fed deer, and I'm like, well, I feed them and I fatten them up, and then they taste pretty good to me. So I don't know why they taste so freaking good to be against whatever people think. But I say that to say, in the South, and with men, males, guys, testosterone, there's guys every year sitting around a campfire or a camp house. Man, I shot that deer at 225 yards. I'm like, Sam, you can't see 100 yards. You can't. And then people say, well, they got a scope. I'm like, I have scopes on all. I have a 7mm Magnum, all right, and I have two 30-06s, and those are high-powered rifles, all right. And I was an expert shooter, still am, but I'm just pointing. So at 200 yards. All right, that's 600 feet.
Yeah.
All right, so people don't realize that. They don't think about that. See, they just hear that and then they just brush that off. And I'm like, that's a long shot for a regular person. Because what people also don't take into account is breathing. All right, and then your trigger. your finger. You don't want the trigger here. You're like that, right? And then you're breathing. All right. When you got someone who's not an expert, now they hadn't disclosed that yet. But let's go back to President Trump and the little pipsqueak. I call him a pipsqueak. That little dude that they showed was the shooter at Butler.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
That guy was on, well, they said he was 19, 20, whatever he was, 20, 21, whatever. He didn't have multiple, he couldn't have put in enough rounds to be in a situation like that where his breathing, he'd have been calm, cool, collective.
No way.
No way. And see, this is where people who don't shoot or don't hunt or both need to shut up. That's when I become that person. It's like, okay, you don't shoot, you don't hunt. All right. And so sit back and be quiet and listen. Just chill out for a moment. Right. In the South, there's no 200-yard shot unless you're on a pasture somewhere. There's a few guys who have big enough land that they can put what we call a green field, a shooting patch, whatever you want to call it. But there ain't many 200-yard shots even in the South unless it's a pasture or someone's got big land. Most of them are 100-yard shots. And 100 yards is a good shot. And people want to downplay that. They think 100 yards is not a long shot. I'm like, that's I don't know why that becomes such a competition with how long you shot something.
That's stupid. Yeah.
So it's kind of like guys when they catch a fish. It was probably this long, but it ends up being can't even fit in the screen. And so at 200 yards, a deer in a scope looks like a chihuahua. So when your breathing comes into effect, it's like even when I was in the Army, man, that AR-15, which is so people also don't understand the AR-15. That's the style. It's just the brand of it. It's not. So it's a 223 round. All right. So a 223 is a little bit bigger than a 22. All right. So you got M4, M16, doesn't matter what you want to call it. It's a 223 round. All right. So that 223 on a range, I don't care. I'm honest. When I was on the range, this is what the drill sergeants would do if you were with a drill sergeant, not your regular military, but your drill sergeants. They would help you. They would kick at the end of your foot. If you're laying prone, they kick you on the back of your foot, say 50 yards to the left, and you can scoot over and pow, hit that target. And then they'll go 75 yards right, kick you on the foot, and you'd scoot over on the ground and perch and be ready, right? Well, a lot of Army guys will remember this. I hated the term sight picture. If I heard that term sight picture one more time, I wanted to slap. I hated it. But it's where you always land the butt stop right there. Because you're shooting open sight. It didn't have a scope. So you had to remember where you were every time because you had to know your velocity, your trajectory, and everything. And that 223 round, the most movement is right around 175 to 200 yards. That's where it'll go up 12 or 14 feet. So when it leaves the barrel, and then it'll drop back down. I couldn't hit that 200-meter target to save my life. I couldn't hit, at the 200 yards. I'll take it back. It wasn't the 200 meters. I couldn't hit the 200 yards to save my life. I could hit every one. The one they didn't want you to shoot at, they wanted you to save your rounds and to send 2 or 3 down range on that 200 yards. They didn't want you to shoot the 300-meter target. They would always say, don't shoot, don't shoot. Save that round, save that round. Well, you could save that round and then you could send 2 or 3 down range on other targets that you may have missed. And don't worry about the long one where it looked like a little bitty speck way down there. I didn't do that. I knew I could hit that 300 meters. And he'd kick me in the foot every time. Don't shoot. I'd send one down range. It knocked that 300-meter down every time. I was bullseye on it every time. The only one I never could hit was the one where that 223 has its most movement. And they're sitting here telling you, I heard, now they ain't said what caliber weapon, but I heard the same, you got to listen to it. It's the same sound as Butler, PA. And they said that was an AR-15. It's the same exact sound. All right. Same audio. So let's assume there's an assumption, but it sounds just like it. Let's assume AR-15, all right, 200 yards. They told you at 200 yards is where that AR-15 makes its most movement. That means the only shooter who could have hit him with one shot in the neck had to be an expert shooter.
Yeah.
You don't get lucky like that.
Right.
You don't get lucky. And here's the other thing that shows that. Most of the time, if you're not an expert shooter, you'll have people who do what? They'll send a few out, right? They'll send more bullets. One shot, and they don't have a shooter. They don't have a suspect. Nobody saw anything. There was no ambulance present. There wasn't even an ambulance anywhere nearby. They put him in a car, SUV. His arm looks like the dye. Every one of you who's ever dyed Easter eggs, you know, and there's always messy because you got to have a little prong thing to dip them down in that thing, and then that thing will slip, and then it shoots up, right? Every time I've ever dyed Easter eggs, the dye gets on your hand, it stains your hand, right? Go look at that. Now, I've got a photo of me cleaning a deer, and I get one more FU in my inbox, and I'm putting it up, all right? I don't care what people think about me killing a deer. I'm going to put up the blood on my arms and show you what blood looks like on your arms, all right? It don't look like dyed Easter egg where it's dyed on you. Blood don't look like that.
Yeah. Right. Well, not only that, I mean, didn't you, was it USA Today or something, report something 19 hours earlier that, that he died? And I mean, so many inconsistencies to make you think that, come on, you know?
Well, it goes back to the Amazon. They've already pulled the book, but it's the one you showed. They've already pulled it. You can't go look at it now. But once you got it screenshot, publication date was September the 9th. Now, I have #1 best-selling books, and I don't do that to brag, but I'm making a point. Amazon, you got to have an account through them. And there's another different account. Like they have a separate kind of publishing. You got to go through that. You get everything set up. When you get everything set up, when you finally hit publish, it says, we'll review this 72 hours. Every time, even after a #1 bestseller, my part 1, when I put part 2 up, it didn't have anything to do with, oh, he's already a #1 bestseller, da-da-da-da-da, we can get this. It was 72 hours on the dot. 72 hours on the dot. Royal Flush of Country Music, 72 hours. So when it says publication date, let me break this down 2 ways again, September the 9th. Well, one, it was shown he was shot on the 10th.
Right.
So for them to have an original publication date, that means that they submitted it on the 9th.
Yep.
And even if it showed up on the 10th or the 11th, they originally published that on the 9th.
Yep.
So whoever that person was, now it could have been someone that got lucky. If you want to be that person out there, then you're in like a little tiny percentile who wants to think like that. But because I know what I know lawfully, and that you're watching a special operation, and there will be disclosure for the people who don't think that. Yes, you will have disclosure of all this down the road when they're ready for you to.
Yeah.
What they're doing is what I'm going to show you. What they're doing, and we'll bounce back to the publication date again, but what they're doing when the economy is clean, when they get all the gas prices down, when the food costs are all down, when everything's down, and there's not some checks and balance somewhere over here where this is high and this is low and these correspond with each other, when all the taxes are done, when they eliminated up, when the tariffs are pulling everything in, when all that. So that's your financial side. All right. When the military is done with all the cities, when all the homeless are rescued from the streets, when all this has happened, when all the children are shown rescued, and they're doing that, they've been eluding that. Tom Hoban's been talking about the children, and we know where they are. We're finding them, this, that, and other. When all that. Now, I know this is all pre-planned, but if you just can't believe that, once all that's shown, all right, then people are going to hear Merle Haggard. I know people don't like light humor or light in the middle of what they think is a sensitive subject, but Merle Haggard had a song in the 70s. When people start doing what they ought to be doing, then they won't be booing no more. When the president goes through the White House door and does what he says he'll do. Well, President Trump went through the White House. He's done everything he said, everything. And it was a special operation. They have gone after the drug cartels. They have gone after the sex trafficking, human trafficking, child trafficking, all that. all that stuff that was burning in Area 51 not long ago when they said, oh, Area 51's on fire?
Yeah.
No, they're destroying the heroin, the cocaine, and everything else. It ain't recirculating like Obama and Bush did and let it go back to Colombia and recycle and go, oh, well, you know, and people not know. The Navy knows about this. There's Navy veterans who have been talking about that they know good and well because they were on those boats and they took it right back to Colombia, dumped it off. And then it had to go back through another. They said they were going to destroy it down there, never destroyed it. So see, once all that, the people, when they see their paychecks, $1 is $1, when they see the taxes eliminated, when they see all of those things, President Trump's going to be exonerated. All right, when they see the justice and all the tribunals and all that, he's going to be exonerated. People are going to see everything that all these career politicians said for years could not happen, would not happen, was impossible. They're going to see all the impossibles be the possible. And then when people see that, when people see all of these fruits of that labor that the military's done and all of the people on the economy, then what's going to happen? They're not going to want to go back. So they'll know that. They'll listen to the people who got us in this position. But then they'll also be accepting of special operations and why it had to be that way down the road. So when you see a publication date on the 9th, that means that they had to submit it on the 9th. That means this person had that visual already there, the graphic design. It means that whatever the content, you can't publish a book with a spine unless it has 79 pages. So that tells you how big this book would have been on a minimum 79 pages. They won't even publish it. Like it'll kick it back. I tried writing a book real short. I tried to do that, and it kicked it back. It said, you got a spine, you need 79 pages. I had 72. Well, you can publish one without a spine, but you got to know all those specs on the back side. And I can show people on mine, maybe, I don't know. I can show the setup when you publish a new book and what it does. And it takes 72 hours on every review. So if they kick it back and they say, oh, it was off by a centimeter. And you go fix that, you hit publish again, it's 72 more hours, business days, not regular days. So if you submitted it on a Thursday, it's going to be Monday.
Wow. So, I mean, just looking at all this, even that book and the publication of September 9th, and all this has been planned way beforehand. So, I mean, for me, when I heard that Charlie Kirk's wife, said that verse, I was like, what did she know? What did she know? Because of that verse saying strength in a very present help in trouble.
And let me add one more thing.
Okay.
So the book they took down, when you clicked on the female's name, Anastasia J. Casey, when you click on it, she didn't have any other books. Right now, the one there's still one still showing. Charlie Kirk, the shooting of Charlie Kirk, it was published September the 11th, which is still early. But Kevin George is the author's name. You can't click on his name. It won't let you click on it. Which means they didn't create a profile. Now remember this. President Trump flipped Zuckerberg, he flipped Bill Gates, and he flipped Jeff Bezos. He flipped Tim Cook of Apple. Every one of them have now been shown meeting with President Trump. All these liberals. Jeff Bezos stepped down from Amazon immediately after President Trump's executive order 13959 with the national emergency went into effect January the 11th, 2021. The freezing of the assets of those funding the Chinese Communist military. He stepped down for philanthropy reasons. All right. When I was doing my master's degree at Colorado State, we had to study Jeff Bezos with our class because he wanted to take over. He wanted Whole Foods. He wanted to apply the Amazon logistics to Whole Foods. All right. And he wanted to be the world's largest billionaire over Walmart. So he wanted to apply his Amazon algorithm, everything, and hit all of it, logistics, all the supply chain, everything over to Whole Foods. And he wanted to overtake Walmart just as a businessman. Now, see, that shows what was he doing back here with that money, right? So Bezos flipped. Then a show that Amazon, people boycotted. A lot of people boycotted Amazon for a moment there. The Patriots did.
Sure.
But guess what? President Trump announced just not what, a month ago back, something like that. He's got a store on Amazon now, the Trump store on Amazon. So see, it shows you that Amazon and President Trump and Bezos, all of them are working
together
on this. And see, I've told people from the get-go, the liberals' heroes are all going to fall like dominoes. They're going to flip all these people, right?
Yeah.
And it was never about my person versus your person, or it's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be all of us, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and all of us doing unto others on the front. Not when crap hits the fan, and not when a tragedy happens. It's supposed to be on the front that we do unto others. It's on the front that we're kind to each other. It's on the front that we listen to each other. It's on the front that if you just don't like me, then disagree with me and move on. Don't tell me to go kill myself. Things like that.
Yeah.
The stuff they got. That's the stuff they're doing with their special operations to flip these mindsets and narratives out there.
Yeah, it's a psyops, mental process going on.
Mark Twain is the most famous quote. He said, "It's easier to fool somebody than to convince them they've been fooled."
Yeah, that's so true, so true. And the whole process in regards to like the vaccines and everything, and how President Trump is bringing everything to the forefront. Hey, what, they lied, that I want to see, hear everything, and it's just, timing is everything. And we are, just like what you said, like right there. And I mean, even with, what is it? Israel and Qatar right now, right? I mean, there's some psychological stuff going on with that as well, isn't there?
Well, I mean, I show the aircraft daily in Israel and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and Kuwait, everywhere. And I mean, it's not what people think it is. I mean, and we have drones that fly. I mean, it's always 2 or 3 a.m. Central Time. Over here, they're over between Bahrain, Iran, etc. I mean, and we have the MFO organization. People can go look that up on mfo.org and see what they do. But they're in and out daily. But again, it's always when people are asleep in America, they're over there operating, obviously, because daylight hours, etc. But they're back and forth from Egypt to the Gaza Strip, and then also outside of Gaza, they're back and forth. So you can go read about them, the multinational force and observers, and they're a peace organization, and with Egypt and Israel, and so then you have your Abraham Accords, that President Trump established, and so people forget about that. And that's that bigger picture I try to show people. And you can't get in there and just scratch and claw and intricacy until you know the bigger picture, because the laws show exactly what's going on, and the orders are more even important, though, because the orders are carrying out the law, and there's visuals to those orders in place. And once you see the bigger picture for people, I don't know if it'll make sense to certain people. It depends on what you're cut out for. But just because you don't know something, just because you never heard of something, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Now, this is the only place I've ever seen Sasquatch, honestly, is on my cup. But, I got friends that believe he exists. And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure, but our technology and all the campers and the liberals who love to go out in the Colorado forest and the Black Hills and South Dakota and everywhere else, I'm pretty sure we'd have seen him by now. Just like Ukraine, 60 million smartphones, and we don't have one outlaw like an American. You could be, you think, oh, I can make it across that river. That road ain't flooded. And you always have that one person that get out there and their car washes off. And then you got the idiot American over there. I'll call for 911 once I get done videoing you. Right? You got that. We ain't got one rebel in Ukraine that goes, I ain't supposed to do this, but I'm not feeling this. We ain't seen any live footage from a civilian. And I'm the crazy one for knowing special operations. All right. So then you got Anthony Blinken over there going to their trips when quote unquote Joe, and he's in a bar with a Les Paul or a Fender Telecaster. I can't remember what it was now, but it was a nice guitar, and he's playing "Keep on Rocking in the Free World." And I'm like, they have
They have absolutely trolled every soft American who just absolutely lets death rule them. COVID, death, fear, death. If you ain't listened to Hank Williams Sr., ladies and gentlemen, I grew up not far from Hank Williams Sr. My grandfather and Hank Williams Sr. were roommates at one time. But if you ain't ever heard the song by Hank, I'll Never Get Out of This World Alive, you might want to go listen to that and remind yourself that you're going to die somewhere between this day and the future. All right. That's the way God designed it. I didn't design it that way. If it were up to me, I would put in a token every now and then to the good Lord and say, I'll take 100 more years. I love messing with liberals. Give me 100 more. Give me 100 more. Give me 100 more. And I would never run out of tokens because I would save my tokens just to be, he'd go like, yep, you got the liberals again. You got them again. Here's your another token. I'll be like, well, give me 100 more. Give me 100 more years. Right. So all these things it show people. And the Abraham Accords and all these other things. I mean, everything's been so genius on the top, and it's pre-planned. You cannot roll this out this quick.
Oh, you can't make it up.
You just can't make it up.
No, you can't.
Now, I mean, I sit back and I think, I'm like, man, I wish I was a little higher up the totem pole in another way, but I'm like, no, I'm like right where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And but that's like I tell people all the time, especially if you're a veteran, now's the time to be fighting in your capacity where you are, and you can be recruited at any time. I'm a walking example of that. You can be recruited at any time because of your knowledge and your skill sets. Like just because you got out of the military and you went home to Bumtuck, Missouri or wherever you are, and you're doing your thing, you can always be recruited. And President Trump has said, he said, we got to protect our nation's IQ. We got to protect our very smart people. And they're looking for people because President Trump's not going to live forever. Right. So you got to have people who can step up in this and keep paying it forward and keep moving forward with it, but thinking with that visual for everybody. And that's like I try to tell people, my way of thinking don't hurt anybody. My way of thinking actually helps a gay person, the gayest of the gayest of gays, walk down a city street without being harmed. I don't believe in their lifestyle, but I also don't go tell them, oh, you're going to hell and God don't like you. And blah, blah, blah. I let them come to their realization on their terms. Now if they run into me and they say, hey, why do you believe the way you believe? And I say, well, you're asking me a question. Do you really want to know? I can tell you. Then if they open conversation, great. But see, Christians are supposed to do the same thing. You're supposed to live your life. And if you're living your life as an example, people will notice. They'll know, hey, why are you always positive? Why are you always this? Why are you always smiling? When something happens, you're smiling. You're cool, calm, collected. I had someone message me earlier. Thank you for being the grounding person because they know that I know. Well, I don't let things shake me just because someone don't, like me or whatever it is. You'll get over it. I like me. My mom loves me. My dad loves me. That's the only two people I really have to answer to. I'll hear it. If I have a 4-letter word every now and then too much, my mom will tell me, I think you need to clean that up a little bit. And I'll say, I'll try. I'll go from 5 to 4 and then 4 to 2. And then I jump back to 10 and I'm sorry again. Right. But, show people little things like that.
Yeah.
So it's anyway.
The world we live in, but things have to happen in order to get back to, a balance again, to the republic, the phrase going out there all the time, democracy, we are not a democracy, and I just can't, even hearing it from, certain people in administration, I'm like, Let
me pull this up. Matter of fact, while I'm here, I'll see if I can find it. I had the Federalist Papers actually pulled up for a moment. And it says, you can go to Federalist Paper. This is number 10. So number 10 and number 4 are your two key Federalist Papers that tell how democracies are dangerous. And that's our founding fathers. So I always tell people, you need it. The best starting point, even before the Declaration of Independence, is actually going and reading the Federalist Papers, which was between the writing of the Constitution and the enacting of it. It was written September the 17th, 1787, and it was put into action March the 4th, 1789. But in between that, from 1787 88 to 1789 there was the Federalist Papers, number 1 to number 85. It was 3 authors, John Jay, Alexander Hamilton, and our father of the Constitution, the one who mainly drafted the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, James Madison. And it's them reiterating to the colonies back then, like New York and all your states, they're reiterating to them why the Constitution is going to be a great thing for America, for the new establishment, right? And why we're breaking away from the British, why we're breaking away from the monarchy, why we're doing away with this. So those Federalist Paper number 10 and number 14. They tell it's James Madison telling how democracies are dangerous. And then we have Article 4, Section 4, which was written before the Federalist Papers. It says we're a republic.
Right.
So anytime someone says the word democracy, they're misinformed and or they have an agenda with it. It's one or the other. And so we're not a democracy. No way, no stretch, whatever.
Yeah.
And so, the way a republic works is that 99% of people can believe like I do, but that 1% can believe polar opposite, but they don't get harmed for it. We don't force them to think like we think. Now, there's nothing they can do because in that 99%, we're the ones writing laws, passing laws, enforcing the laws, and interpreting the laws, but they still don't get harmed for that way of thinking. They get to walk around and think, as long as they're not hurting or harming somebody, they can walk around with purple hair, being gay, and being Buddhist. And we're like, okay, you're still free. Nobody's hurting you. All right. And so what America has become is even Republicans are the worst at it. Republicans and conservatives are all about someone being wrong and bad.
Right.
They don't look for the good in people anymore.
I know. Right? Yeah.
And that don't mean not to keep your head on the swivel. It don't mean not to have reserves about someone, your gut instincts, but you give someone, or you trust someone until they give you a reason not to trust you.
Exactly.
Right? And so many Americans are looking for the bad and the wrong, and one wrong makes their whole life done, or one bad, writes them off. And I'll give you an example of something that I just got to brag on my dad a little bit, but my dad just 2 days ago went to court with a guy that we know, a black guy. I got to specify. My dad's an old white man, and this is a young black man, and he is one of the best workers that and friends. And so, you can only save the world one person at a time, as that saying is. It takes one at a time. Well, he has a little record, all right, but nothing. He just didn't have the opportunity that I had. He didn't have the education I had. He didn't have the funding to be able to do that. All right, he didn't have that. All right, grew up in the hood, etc. And so, hard worker, one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. Don't shy away from work. Always asking, can I do something? Do you have something for me to do? He don't shy away from it. And he does that with every neighbor around here. All right. And so there's a certain person in the community that don't like him. All right. And they lied, went to the sheriff's department and used their stature and lied. Bald-faced lied. All right. Sheriffs came because he has a quote unquote past. They took the person at their word, small town USA, and arrested him. My dad went down there and got him out. And he went back to the sheriff and said, he told him, I'll see you in a couple of days. We're going to have us a talk. Wow. And so, and they set a trial date, and that was a couple of days ago. And they got in there. They couldn't produce any evidence. And then they asked my dad, said, you look different. You look like you have something to say. The judge said this. And my dad stood up and he said, well, we have no hard feelings towards this fellow over here, but we don't have anything to do with him. And I know for a fact that he hasn't seen him in 6 months because he works with me and a few others. And I know, and he barely can have a phone. He always breaks his phone. We buy all his phones for him. So we're trying to teach him how to even not break a phone right now. And 45 years old, first time he's ever had a driver's license. My dad helped him get it. And I tell people, if people just apply something like that, 45 years old, never had a driver's license. So go back. I know people about movies and I don't care about actors and whoever, but just the concept of the blind side. You know,
Yeah.
he cried when he saw his face on a driver's license, and he said, "I've never had one of these before." It's a big deal. It's a big accomplishment for people
Yes,
because
it
it's a sense of independence. It's a sense of accomplishment. It's a
yeah.
sense of, and so he tells the judge, he said, you know, we're helping him and trying to get him on his feet. And the judge not only told the person to leave the courtroom, dismiss the case, but told them to leave. And they took my dad and our buddy and the sheriffs all in a locked room, the judge did, and said, I think that you ought to stick around him a lot more, which he does. But she was telling him, you know, that, and so, you know, it takes one at a time. It takes one person at a time. But see, my dad's one of those. He believes in people until they give him a reason not to believe.
Right. That's how
and then he don't quit. My dad's on a quick reactor. He don't. Now I'm a reactor. I do to certain things. You know, I'm like, you know, like, and I'm like, you know, but still, I don't judge you. I don't hold animosity in my heart towards anybody that says F you, nothing like that, because I know you just don't know that you don't know. And I can't unknow what I know. But if everybody will start thinking like that and staying off social media every now and then, you know, these posts have a short shelf life, and being on too many pages and too many people, it don't help your thinking. It don't help your nothing, your person, and nothing. And so if everybody would get back to the way we grew up, just myself, I was that last generation without cell phones and all that. But if everybody get back to that mentality, have a conversation, you know, go somewhere and you know, to a whole different state that you've never been to, and go into a coffee shop and you know, sit down and have a conversation with somebody. Don't talk about politics right out the gate or anything like that. Just talk about you know, what's life here? What's it like here? And then, you know, if everybody will start looking for the good in each other again, then all the bad will isolate itself. And then we can suppress that and we can identify it. And see, that's why I try to tell people what President Trump and them are doing is making it to where you can't just be proud that President Trump is back in, like the people who relaxed on January the 20th. Oh, it's back. No, we got to work daily, every day. The real work starts when this operation ends, which is January the 20th, 2029. That's when the real work's going to start, when we get into that phase over there. That's when the real maintaining and sustaining. And then every person needs to be identified, whether if you're working for the election boards, if you're working for whatever it is, you got to be able to identify what a discrepancy is, what that looks like, the proper channel of what to go to and how to report that, call about it, whatever it is. Everybody has to pull that weight. And the more who's doing that, the better we can maintain and sustain. And we won't ever let crap fester and fester and fester and hit the fan. We won't even have to worry about, hey, you don't need to get your gloves on. Don't worry, it ain't that bad. Like whatever. Like if we keep it sequestered and quelled everywhere, we won't ever have to get there. And so that's what people need to realize, that it still is important. People ask me all the time, why is it so important that you talk about what you talk about? Like, because it's the very application of how to be a United States American based on our foundation and our ideology. And it's how we live and let live, but it's also how we life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, but it's also how we identify when someone's a threat to that. Yes, and that's why Abraham Lincoln put the word foreign and domestic into our oath in 1862. It had nothing to do with Iraq or Afghanistan or Iran and Syria and whoever else. It had nothing to do with that. It was anybody who was foreign to our ideology in America, like the liberals have looked like. They do look like it. Some rhinos do too. It's everybody who looks foreign to our ideologies, our way of life, our principles, our standards of how America is supposed to operate and function. If you look foreign to that, you should be treated like that. Just like President Trump said, if you dip your neck in Texas down there, anybody, if you look like you're pondering and you're over there looking and you're rubbernecking into a place that's a military zone, you're going to be treated as such.
Right. Wow. Well, two more questions. The golden age. You know, Trump is going overseas, I think this weekend, so forth. And I mean, there's, of course, we're seeing all this happening before us. You know, what we talk about Jassar, the currencies and all this stuff. I mean, do you see that coming at the end of this year from, the movement and how fast things are going? Or is that something that, we need to look at for 2026?
I mean, I'm not the financial guru expert on all the bankings and the. I mean, I know the general concept of the decentralization and what they've done to that and everything, but the problem is people, they do panic on that too and think that mean you had all these people out there telling people to pull their money out of their bank and all that, and I was like, no.
Right.
I'm like, until President Trump, if there's something of that stature and that's the action that they tell you, then wait till the commander tells you. See, that goes back to knowing the laws and the orders of what's currently invoked and what they mean, what they look like, and how they're being applied. That's why that matters, is because it's been the only topics around the financial has been the digital bank versus the CDVC. Yeah, so there's those. All right. But there's not been any intricacies of what that's going to look like. Right. And so they're not even at that,
stage.
Now, the other people that we're talking about are the ones who went and bought, Iraqi and all the different things that, now, there's one of the colonels that's on when we do our military panel, Lieutenant Colonel retired Tom Lennox. He explains the quantum financial better than anything. Quantum financial, there's not a quantum financial system like a QFS. There's quantum, all right, and it pertains all different kinds of things, but people have taken that and run with that.
Yes, they have.
Right? And he explains it better than anybody. And it's just like Lieutenant Colonel Bosey, he was sitting there on that as well, and he said specifically, anyone who can't answer that in a short dummy down don't need to listen to anything else, because he answers it real short and he explains how everybody who's taken it and run with it, they're wrong. Yeah. All right, from wrong standard like that. All right, because they're trying some agenda. They want to make something here. Hey, pull your money here, put it here, do this, and they're either frauds or scams, and they're making all of it off of you, or they're trying to act like some individual stockbroker on their own, where they're, I take 10% and you get 90 or whatever, I tell people, until President Donald John Trump, the commander of the greatest operation, but until people know that operation and what the definitions are, the glossary, the index, what those look like in a paragraph, and then what the paragraph reads, and you see the visual, like I can show that with all the military. I can't make people see it, but I can show it to them. Mm-hmm. I can tell you, here's what the words mean. Here's Title 10, Title 32. Here's the bit, I can't make them. So it's the same thing with this. Until people know this is an operation, the wrong people have jumped and panicked, because panic, feelings, emotions, fear, right? And just like Major Jim O'Connor's as well, West Point grad, that's also on our panel. He said, look, ladies and gentlemen, he was like, it's not my duty to persuade you or anything like that with God, but because he's a bishop, he is a Christian. He said, if it's not of God, you don't want it. If it says anything to do with fear, it gives you a fearful emotion, anything like, it's not of God. Because he didn't give us a spirit of fear. He gave us a power, love, and a sound mind.
Right.
And so, like you said, anything that makes you fearful, doubtful, frantic, scared, that's not, the military don't scare you on purpose. That's not, we're not operating to scare civilians.
Right.
Military operations are military operations to take out whatever is the target, whether it be in a civilian operation, like if it's some form of trafficking, or the cartels and the gangs, et cetera. They're interrupting civilian life, so we have to get in there and do what? Take them out. And unfortunately, sometimes casualties happen, but it wasn't meant for that, right? And so it goes back to that. If you can save 10,000, you might lose 100 versus saving 100 and losing 10,000. And so many people can't get that, and that is the unfortunate part. That is the real part. That is your life and death part. That's real. But all this quantum stuff has just gotten in so many people. Now,
Oh,
what I showed from the very beginning was Executive Order 13885, which was one of the President Trump's quantum executive orders. And then there were certain things that they showed during that time period. The website's completely changed now. It's got a whole new interface and etc. There was a website. What I was showing people, it was a hidden indirect or an indirect hidden nugget to show people that there is a global reset happening. But a global reset didn't mean to panic and pull your money out and do this. The global reset was an internal system where they're modifying all the systems, the computer systems, and they were tracking the money. That's why President Trump said, follow the money, follow the money. Well, they followed all our money that was interchanging between like maybe New Zealand and China. And then see what the deep state were doing, the incompetent deep state, like President Trump calls them. Our dollars were being exchanged with other nations. Well, they got serial numbers on them. Well, we weren't accounting for those. So what did the incompetent Congress do? Printed more money. But who did they tax? Us, right? So they printed more money, that some of that was going to be lost if it made its exchange to other nations. And then they exchanged it with each other. They were using our dollar, and the idiot, incompetent people in D.C. were just printing more money, print more money, print more money. And then they taxed the heck out of you and I again. Right. So see, that follow the money term wasn't it, a lot of these terms weren't applicable to everyday Americans from that angle. It was applicable if you knew what the operation was doing and how they were getting the money back, and then also the tariffs as well. That ties into it as well, because President Trump says it's going to be a reciprocal, meaning it's going to be they're doing something, we're doing something. We get something, you get something. You want to hit us here, we'll hit you here. All right. It's reciprocal. All right. And that balances out monetary. That resets monetary. The Indo-Pacific Agreement 2019, Pompeo specifically said in there that every nation will be independent on their own. All right. Well, that didn't mean you leave them stranded, but that's where the reshift was taking place. The reforms, the Reformation, whatever you call it, all that was going on. And then we were making negotiations and saying, okay, here's what we know about your nation. Here's what you did in the past. If you don't do this, that's why President Trump was able to do all those capitulations, is because we're not going to be the world's police anymore. You're not going to get our military in here and us front the 98% of NATO and you pulling your little tiny weight. Ain't going to happen anymore. Right. So all these things all tie in. Yeah. So the average everyday American ran with this stuff. And I know some of them. I know a lot of people who did this. They thought that buying these other currencies, there's going to be this reevaluation, and that's going to make them some trillionaire. It don't work like that. And here's the thing that Lieutenant Colonel was talking about is that every bit of our systems that we've been operating with have operated on where they can't be audited. Right. Only the people who operate them are the ones that knows what's going on. Yeah. So see, and a lot of our military systems work that way too. So when President Trump said, I'm rebuilding our military, it's not just manpower, it's all of our technology. All right. And that quantum applies to that, because a quantum system, it's got perks. It's got cons. The cons could be, okay, we can't ever let people get in these positions again that use this against us. That's why President Trump said AI can be good when it's good. It's going to be bad when it's bad, but it's going to be better if we're in control of it. The good guys are in control of it. Right. And so many people, that's why maintaining and sustaining before the poop festers and hits the fan. Yeah. That's why every individual in America needs to know at their capacity what you can know. And don't be lazy. Don't say, oh, that's out of I can't think like that. No, you ain't tried yet. All right. You got to try. And when you get tired, give it 10% more right when you think you're tired. All right. And then call it a day, as the saying is. And then pick up the next day, do it again. And if everybody will do that, that's the maintainability. So that's just when people heard follow the money and that we're rebuilding a military. You got to listen to people like the lieutenant colonels. I tell people, if you just don't want to listen to me, oh, dear Jonhson, you didn't stay in long enough. All right. You want your negative attitude? Well, all right, I got some people you can listen to. You want to see the full resumes? You want to see all that? Then here, listen to these people. They're the ones who write the publications. Lieutenant Colonel Bosey, boy, I mean, his writing, phenomenal. Lieutenant Colonel Lennox, he wrote some things with the DOD. Come on, people. And that's the things people ask me all the time, why more veterans don't speak out. Because people like me, they see people like me and them and Jaco getting just hammered. F you and go kill yourself. Right? Yeah, well, we can take it, but we're here because we can take it. Those veterans are going, I can take it, but I don't want that.
Right.
And, kind of deal.
Yeah, I got you.
And so, it's not that they're not pulling their weight. A lot of veterans are pulling their weight in their communities. I know a guy that buys my books, and he takes them to sheriff's departments and everything. And then also not only distributes, but he teaches it too. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And I'm only for a time being, and I know that because that's the way God designed this, that this is my mission, our mission. It's for a time being. This wasn't going to last forever, but God, I have another mission for all of us on the flip side too, wherever we're supposed to be. We'll burn that bridge when we get there. But right now this is an operation, and it's life and death from another angle from the military side. But the quantum stuff is all like, I have multiple. I'm a popular face, and people use my name, brand, image, and they got fake pages, and they're scamming people with QFS. And I'm like, it's not even the real thing. Quantum's real, but it's a quantum system. It's a massive system. It covers all things, and it's quantum physics. I get it. I'm not a quantum physicist, but my brain can get over there a little bit, but I'm not the intricate physics guy, quantum physics. But President Trump he has pictures. You can see a chalkboard in the background. That's quantum physics, and he is an expert on that as well.
Yeah, he is. Leave it to the experts. Yeah, and I know that a lot of people have been trolling our Rumble channels like yours, and putting, get involved with the QFS, contact me, and they'll utilize half of your email and change it, somewhat so that they can be contacted. Guys, please, I'm always deleting. Don't fall for it. Real quick, you mentioned that Patel Cash is in a lot of trouble. Can you open that up just a teeny bit?
Well, it's it also shows that people do. There's one way to be critical in a good way, is that all these establishments, the FBI, the CIA, even the Secret Service, they've been around for years. The creation of them, and it kind of, I'm not a preacher, but maybe I can get away with it for a little bit here. But the Bible talks about what man meant for evil, God can make for good. Well, if you flip that narrative, what God meant for good, man can make evil. So what President Trump did straight out the gate with the CIA, the FBI, the DOJ, and all of them, he went after them and said it's the DOJ weaponizing, it's them weaponizing against this. But he said it's not everybody in these three-letter agencies. He said it's a senior level leadership, right? They're the ones who are all connected with each other. And so he was that's why I tell people, listen, a lot of people are hearing to react. Right? F you, Derek. Right? That's hearing to react. You're not listening to respond. Because I can tell you right now, even President Trump, you're not going to be yelling at him. Look at the reporters. He'll point to him and say, you're rude, you're out of line, you're out, hush, stop, out, right? So see, the people who claim they love President Trump, they don't even do exactly what they're, so it's a parallel. See, that's what I call parallel. Terminology, parallels, principles, standards, etiquette, protocol. That's the way the world operates. And it works better when we have that versus people just yelling and always just, the loudest don't mean you're the smartest.
Right.
Now, sometimes being loud shows your passion, but you got to also be able to differentiate. Okay, Derek Jonhson, he's on it today, but he's being passionate. I'm not yelling to be yelling. I'm passionate, showing you, can't you see people? So see, people forget about that.
Yeah.
And so the FBI, the CIA, the Secret Service, all these organizations, you only know what you know. If you don't know anything about them, You can't ask the correct questions. You can't ask a good question. You can't even criticize a good way. All right. Criticism don't always mean it's bad, but people could say, hey, Derek, I think you ought to do this on one of your books, or maybe you ought to write a book about this, or da-da-da-da-da, or what, or something. Or they could say, hey, well, what do you mean here? And then I tell you, then you shouldn't be responding that way. F you, whatever. I keep using that one, but let's just say that's a response. And I'm like, well, you asked, right? And I told you. Well, you don't have to like it, but again, I didn't write the law. I didn't pass these laws. I'm just showing you what the law says, reads, and is where it's enforced. So FBI, all these people that don't know about it, well, they're reinventing it in another way. It's like the FBI will have a purpose, and some may be terminated in the future. I don't know that, but some may not be needed, like the Department of Education, like President Trump said. It's not necessary. And they created it for this reason. All right. So it's running its course. But the FBI, so they got Cash Patel and they're beating him up, and they're like, oh, well, where's this shooter at? Now we're offering money for the shooter now and all that. So he's taking all this. Well, that makes him sharpen his skills. I'm not saying he's the bad guy. Don't know that. I've only met him one time. But it's showing you that we're still in operation. But you got to get these things to where they're functionable too in the future. That way they're functioning, and that you have very little hiccups along the way. Yes. All right. Because if there is a tragedy again, if there is a natural disaster again, that FEMA or whoever, whichever organization is still in place, is still a part of everything moving forward, then you want to have everybody to where they can answer a question, they can field the question, they can field an answer for you. And then they can get it to you pretty quickly versus, we'll just let it slide under the bush. Maybe they won't ask me that tomorrow or the next day.
Right.
You got to get people back in. So President Trump, that was one of the biggest key things was going in and cleaning out the swamp. And you got to do it top to bottom. And all these organizations, the ones that remain, they got to be cleaned out top to bottom, but they also have to be accountable to whom? People. Right? The people or the government. So, but like I tell people, if I'm in a position, you're not going to come in my office yelling, kicking, screaming, cussing. You're going to get out. You're going to get escorted out. So this is where you got to empower yourself. Empower yourself. Learn temper, control, everything. Learn what's in place. Learn. That's it. All it does is empower you. It doesn't hurt you. Everything that I show don't hurt a soul. Again, it don't hurt anybody. And so you might just find out too out there, someone may just find out that you might be a pretty cool person, or you might be if I may say the term badass, you might find out, man, this clicks with me. And and you may be someone that didn't even know you had a skill set like that. And then you're picking this up and and then you may have an opening like the FBI or who was it? FBI, I think it was, just open up, which I think is dangerous in one way, but they open up where you don't even have to have a GED to get in or something like that. Something insane. But it can work to the favor. They're still going to have something. They go through a process of selection. But let's just say, let's look at the good of it for a moment. Got people out there watching, going to go negative, but let's look at the good side. You may find 2 or 3 or 5 individuals that get these positions that have a skill set unmatched to nobody out there that didn't have a resume and that don't have a Harvard or
book smarts, they have the common sense.
They have the common sense, they have the smarts. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it could be someone out there that watches me, they see a field office position open and, I don't know, Denver, Colorado, or, Bismarck, North Dakota, whatever. And they go apply for it and they get it. They go through all the things and their skill sets and everything. And then they get it. And they're like, man. So see, nothing I talk about hurts anybody. It don't hurt anybody. And it teaches you a whole level of thinking you never thought about. And also shows you what the commanders are working with. It's all public. Everything that I show has a public link access to it. And some of them they've taken down, which is kind of cool. But when they take it down, it means they got high volumes of traffic there, and they may not want everybody to see it all at once in another manner, but it'll pop right back up. It's going to come back, or they're rewriting a new publication. It could be any variable. But the laws are the laws, the orders are there, the publications as well, the manuals, and then like the one I was showing about the pyramid, the special operation resistance pyramid.
Yes.
You got that 28-year veteran saying, "Hey, here's my email. You, the reader, you got questions, you got comments. Here you go. Here's my email." But that guy don't want to be sitting there going, "F you," getting oh, you don't know what you're talking. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
And people like that even get emails. You don't know what you're talking. That's the problem we have in America. We have a bunch of people who have no experience, know anything, but they're a keyboard warrior, and they don't realize that you're the problem.
Yeah. So true. So would you say, Derek, that will there be a time where I know we talked about this before about even Elvis, still being alive and, certain people, will there be a time where perhaps, they say, hey, you know what? Charlie Kirk is alive, but we had to do this because we had to wake up the masses.
I believe that it could be a test for AI. 1, 2. None of that was real. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. You can't unknow what you know. But I do believe that I think the way you flip the world, look at what this did.
Mm-hmm.
It flipped Republicans, conservative.
Oh, right? Yeah. Big time.
Liberals are on X right now. They're still atrocious, but they're a small percentile. And Dan Scavino reminds everybody, hey, don't let the 10% make you think they're the 90. They bark loud, but they're not a big percentile.
That's good.
Twitter is ate up with liberals, and most of them have blue checks. They're paying Elon, so they're captured. All right, so there's that. So that's even if they're not an insider or a paid opposition, well, they're still paying Elon. So that's Elon is captured by President Trump.
Right.
But what they could do, and I've said this before, we can't sustain with the way Americans have acted for the last from today past the average normal American. We can't sustain with the head button on you believe in aliens and I don't, or you believe in Sasquatch and I don't, or I believe in Sasquatch and you don't. I believe in aliens. We can't sustain we can't sustain on the fighting. Yes. All the arguing, the fighting, and the dog eat dog, the madness. We can't sustain that way because we can't have a split of who's to pay. Like we do have to have a tax for a highway. We all ride down the highway. We all share the highway. We don't get out there and go, oh, that's a liberal. Wham! Right. We all share the highway bipartisanly, but the potholes have to get fixed. So we have to have some way to pay for the potholes. We have to cross bridges that go over canyons and waterways. The bridge has to be maintained. All right. So we have to have a tax. So there has to be a way for people who walk a different walk and think a different thought, where it's personal life, gay, straight, Buddhist, atheist, whatever you are. Those are personal things. Those were never supposed to be put in government whatsoever.
Come on.
Now, when we get to children, now we have what we deem as people as going what is hurtful or harmful, and at what age is this and what age is that. You can't smoke, you can't drink, you can't whatever. We deem all those things. All right, that's where we the people do that. We have punishments for drinking and driving. We have punishments for this, and this. That's what we the people deem because we see the effects of what it can cause. And then we go, okay, we all agree with this. You want to keep this here? Yes. Here? Yes. This? Yes. We have that. So there's a way to live and let live. And then someone sit on their property and smoke all the weed they want like Willie Nelson as long as they're not getting out there driving and hitting somebody. Okay. I don't have a problem with stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally. There is a case, though, where you give someone an inch, they take a mile. All right. So that's where we have to get back to, okay, all right, if you want to have an abortion, you want to cut your off, you want to grow one, whatever those things are, all right, then you going to pay for what you want. If you can live with yourself and you can live with the way God or whatever your spiritual belief, whatever it is you believe, you don't believe in anything at all, but you can do that and you can find someone to do that for you, then is it wrong in my eyes? Absolutely. But that's also where we have to allow people to be who they are if they're not hurting or harming somebody.
Right.
All right. Some Republicans, conservatives have a problem with me saying that about even a baby. And I'm like, look, I believe abortion's wrong utmost because I believe in how did you get there? What was the choice that led you there? And only 1% of abortions are rape victims. Only 1%, and it's actually smaller than that. So it shows people are doing it by choice. I'm all about, I don't think that you should even be in that position in the first place. All right, but I'm also like President Trump. I believe in the exceptions rule. I do believe in that because of certain things. Now, I don't want to get on this whole topic for that, but I'm just making a point to people that there's certain things in personal that was never supposed to be in government whatsoever.
That's right.
That is the one thing when we make a law for an intricate little thing, then it becomes up for what? Interpretation. That interpretation is where you're going to have we may not even need that little intricacy because if it's just a tiny little percentile of Americans out there that want to chop their you-know-what off or do this, if it's like a half of a half of a half of a half percent, then you want that? You go fund that. All right. You want a Corvette? I want a Corvette. You going to buy it for me? No, you're not? Well, I can afford one. Well, I want a Corvette though. Well, you can go buy one. Okay. Well, you want an abortion? You get to pay for it. You get to do that. You live with yourself. All right. It ain't going to be funded through the government. It's not going to be funded through the state. But see, even that, the states have voted for it. And President Trump said most states have voted for it because the people who care about it went out there and voted. And what do the people do who are whining, complaining, and griping and fussing do? Sit at home and pout. Didn't go out there and make your voice known on the vote. That's also what we're talking about. So all those things were never supposed to be in government whatsoever. And so that's the stuff we got to get back to. So people, like you got your people like, if Elvis talking about those subjects, getting into that, JFK Jr., all these people, me personally, I don't think they'll ever show their face if they're alive because they accomplished what they had wanted to accomplish. And for the integrity of staying low key and back here, if they're operating, then they're pulling the strings. Now, what I think they could do is you see what Charlie Kirk did. Flip. It is everything's on purpose. His company was named Turning Point. This was a turning point in 45-47. This is a turning point for Republicans, conservatives out there. Now, those Republicans and conservatives that are still in normie land, that are sad and think it was a tragedy and all that now they can still think what they want, not making fun, not judging, but what I'm saying, they're setting them up for disclosure. All right. Now, President Trump, what I think would flip the world completely is where you have a finale, where you do walk out and you pull your mask off.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, you have Joe Biden, you have Kamala, you have all these people walk out, and it looked like a general assembly where it's, a panoramic view. They're all on stage, or they bring them out one at a time, whatever.
That would be amazing.
With the emergency alert system. That way, it flips everybody's phones at one time. It flips everybody's computer at one time. It flips everybody's TV at one time. That way, a liberal, hardcore liberal, can't be sitting over there saying, "Oh, that's AI, that's fake," or a Republican doing that. If everybody's phones, is your phone doing that? What?
Right.
And then you're sitting in a bar, you're watching sports, and Alabama's about to win the championship, and they're kicking a field goal, and the TV goes, yeah, and it's all President Trump, or whatever it is, and they're like, what in the world, right? Well, then everybody sees it all at one time, and every walk of life might be in a bar and a restaurant. They're going, "What are we watching? What, did you change that? Joe, turn the TV back." Like they're yelling at the bartender, "Turn that back." And they're like, "I am," and it's not moving, and then every channel is that, right? They flip the channel and it's still the same thing. They flip the channel. You can see the channel changing, but it's still the same thing. Same thing.
Right.
That is how Commander Derek Jonhson would do. Say, all right, we can get everybody by doing that, flipping everybody's TVs, phones, and everything. No one can say, "Oh, it's AI," and all that. Then you have this show. This is what you've been watching. Here's your disclosure, laws and orders, and President Trump saying this is what 45-47 mean. However they want to say it, however they want to disclose it. You bring people out on stage and pull their mask off.
Come on.
Everybody will come to their knees then. Right.
You better believe it.
And now the people have to, the people who are watching this that think we're crazy sitting here talking about it, maybe new people. Look, the laws and orders outline a puppet government, a government in exile, unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, which is a military operation, military government, military occupation, and continuity government. The laws show this. And that's where my grandfathers and people who lived through those tactics, most of them are passed away. My grandfather will be gone 20 years in just a little over a week, and it's hard for me to believe it. But most of those generations have passed. The men who would be capable of talking about the puppet government, the government exile in great detail, they've all passed away. So see, it was up to someone like me to listen to them, to pay it forward, to pass it down. I remembered it, and then, this is a tactic. It's a strategy. It was used in World War II. It's nothing to be scared of. It's a genius idea. They kept everybody going. They knew most people weren't willing to die for certain things. They weren't going to go out and kill somebody over something like that. They knew most of that. But when it does happen, then it can, it can flip a narrative out there. All right. And this was a perfect turning point to flip the focal point. And now we have your subpoenas happening right now. You got everything, Bill and Hillary coming in October. Right. All right. Obama has posted a few things, but he hasn't defended Russiagate. Obama and Michelle weren't subpoenaed. All right. You got your Supreme Court docket 23-939 that specifically ties Obama and Osama bin Laden together with murder. Obama's not in the War Powers Act. All right. Military and federal lawyers say this on multiple places, that he had violated the Constitution. He violated his power as president. All right. We have a death resulted in it, bin Laden. And then we have Gaddafi 5 months later after bin Laden. Well, Gaddafi was the leader of Libya. Who was under congressional hearing with Libya? Hillary, Benghazi. All right. So when it specifically asked these generals and these colonels, the question in that Supreme Court docket says, can a president order SEAL Team 6 to commit a murder on a political rival? Assassination. There's that term, assassination, not murder. It goes on down in the bottom to say, any officer who carries out such order has committed murder. Well, guess what? Guess what general is in that Supreme Court docket? One of them, Keith Kellogg. Who wrote a book called War by Other Means? Keith Kellogg. Who wrote the 2017 National Security Strategy? Keith Kellogg. Who is the ambassador to Ukraine right now? Keith Kellogg. Who did President Trump say is one of my right-hand men? Keith Kellogg. Who's writing the new 2026 NSS? Keith Kellogg. Who is the editor on it? The same editor from 2017. Why is the most recent national security strategy on the Department of Defense now back to the War Department, Department of War? Why is the most recent archived NSS on the Department of War 2017? Where's quote unquote Joe's that they showed on another page from 2022? Where is it? Why is Joe Biden the first president, for people that thought he was president? Why is he the first to not have an order of succession within military domain? Any. The NSS, the Department of Defense. The most recent order of succession within the Department of Defense is December the 10th, 2020. All those matters, ladies and gentlemen. So see, that's why if you just can't get the Charlie Kirk thing at the moment, hang tight. Believe what you want to believe at the moment, but then keep that there. Go read the bigger picture, and then you're going to be like,
yeah,
it'll make sense.
It'll make sense. It'll make sense. Wow, that is huge. Oh my gosh, I tell you, what a powerful broadcast today. Because I'm going to admit too, at first, it hit me. Derek. I mean, it hit me hard, and I was like, "What the heck?" But then I started looking at different things here, saying, "Wait a minute, in the neck, okay, he's going this way. It's not even touching anything. It should have went through his neck." I mean, all this stuff would have. It just didn't make sense to me. So I started looking at what you have been teaching and this whole military operation. And there's a purpose behind all of this. And, I praise God that the Lord has appointed you, to share, because honestly, without you bringing forth the whole, laws and orders, people would still be scratching their head and lost and everything, you know. And of course, President Donald J. Trump, and boy, what a call on his life, what a call on your life, and many others out there that are just declaring the truth. And I want to thank you for sharing, even though this may not be popular out there right now. Many people still won't understand, but if they start dissecting things, they'll see the greater good of what's going to happen. And it is happening right now. I mean, how many of the youth are now becoming on fire, saying, I'm going to step in those shoes. I'm going to start preaching the gospel and sharing the truth. I'm going to love my brother and sister, you know, and a lot that didn't really care for him, saying, wow, you know what? This is wrong. And we need to come together in unity, you know, and if this is what has to happen to bring us to that point, then it has to happen. So I just say, you know, for people just to pray, God will show you and give you wisdom in all this. And if you don't have, then I really need to get your other book. I said it last time and I totally forgot, but Derek's first book, The Midnight Rider Rides Again, is awesome. And the other book is even thicker. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's, oh man, that's huge. But I mean, stuff that we really need to know, and that we, because we do not want this to happen again. Right, Derek?
That's correct. Well, it's all, the truth always unveils itself. So people just need to relax and
Yep.
let it play out. But I mean, my inbox looks like World War III. I just saw like, it's wow, man. Like people, why would he be doing that? I was like, well, we get this podcast out. I'll post it, get it up. But I gotta hop on one right now. I got one back to back. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. These are, you know, those companies that support us, the Mahav movement. Check out all that, the Pet Club Revolution, awesome, Cardio Miracle. And I have Derek Jonhson's information below as well. Derek, I want to thank you again for being on our broadcast. We'll have to do this again in another month or so. I know things are going to be blown like crazy, but it's exciting times that we're in. So thank you very much for being with us. We love you, brother.
It's good to be here, and just hang tight, everybody. There's, you know, the good Lord's got it all in his hands, and President Trump was called by him. So you just got to believe the bigger picture first. So hang tight.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just keep on holding the line. Keep on holding the line, guys.
Right.
It's not over yet. It's definitely not over yet. So God bless you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Upfront in the Prophetic. Again, you can find all of Derek's information below in the comment section. Please, if you have a comment, go ahead and share. It doesn't mean that I'm going to reply to you, but still, we love you guys. God bless you, everyone. All right.